friends, it's Cherie Gaines, independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up. In this video tutorial, I'm going to share a technique using embossing folder, Stampin' Blends, and the Memento ink. The embossing folders I'm going to use are the Glass and Gardens embossing folders. You get both of these embossing folders. They work perfect for the mini cut and emboss machine, or you can use your standard. I'm going to use the floral design that is in that packet. The blend colors I'm going to use is the light Pretty in Pink, the light Daffodil Delight, and the light Shy Shamrock. You get your blends in a combo, a light and dark, but I'm not going to be using the dark colors for this project, and I'm going to be using the Tuxedo Black embossing folder. So for the materials, my card base is Pretty in Pink. In my measurements, I did not specify the color of the card base because you can pick the color you want, and you can actually pick the colors you want for your blends as well. When I'm all done assembling this card, I do have one that has a basic white card base that I'm going to share with you. I've chosen to use basic black for the coordinating cardstock. My first layer I want to talk about is 5 1/8 by 3 7/8. This is on the outside of the card. It's going to be sandwiched between between two layers. So I'm going to cut the frame from the center. The frame I'm going to use is from a die set called the Framed Scenes Bundle, or dies. It bundles with a stamp set. When dies bundle with a stamp set, you save 10% on them. So I'm going to use this frame. I'm going to cut that out of the middle. The dies also come with 2 oval dies that nest together really well, and a die that creates that decorative wood grain print, or pattern I'll call it. So I'm going to cut this frame out of here, and I've done that ahead of time. I used my cut and emboss machine, and I cut the frame out of that center. And so we're going to use the frame. We don't need this piece, and that's going to be a layer on the front of the card. So I'm going to replace those pieces. Then for basic black, because I'm using a colored cardstock, I am going to have a layer for my inside sentiment, and I chose to outline that with basic black. So this piece is 4 1/8 by 2 5/8, and the inside layer is 4 by 2 1/2. I adhered those together already, and they're going to be for the center or the inside of the card. Then we have the layer on the outside. This piece is 5 by 3 3/4, and I wanted this to be textured with just a subtle texture design. So I used the exposed brick embossing folder. This has been a go-to for me for just a subtle design. I'm going to place it in my folder in this direction, make the right stack up for my cut and emboss machine, run that through, and it will texturize the paper, and that's just a nice subtle texture there. So that's going to be layered here, and this is what I meant. Now nobody's going to even notice that that frame is cut from the inside. I also have an outside sentiment. That layer I have cut to be 2 1/2 by 3 3 1/4. That's going to be behind this frame. It's a little bit smaller than the frame size, and I stamped a sentiment on here that is from a stamp set that I'm going to be doing some stamping with in this video tutorial. It is in the annual catalog, and I use the Congrats sentiment on here. We'll talk about this stamp set in a moment. So I'm going to replace this piece with this one because I have that already stamped. So that's the outside sentiment. We talked about the inside sentiment. Now I have a change here. I've been creating this card, and I have been using 2 1/2, and I think 2 3/4 is better. That's the piece that is cut to size to emboss the flower design. So I'm going to place this, I did this part already. I placed it between the folder, or in the folder, ran that through my machine, and it texturized the embossing folder, or it texturized those beautiful floral designs. This is the piece we're going to do the technique with. So I'm going to set that aside. We have one more piece that we need to talk about, and these are for some stamped flowers. This piece is 3 1/4 by 5.5, and I'm going to stamp these flowers from the stamp set. So I'm going to take the time to show you how I do all of that. And so this is the piece I'm going to stamp. I'm going to set this aside, and I'm going to set that aside, and we're going to talk about this. So I take the cover out for my videos just so the glare on the case doesn't glare with the lights. So I typically, you would have that inside the piece here. With this stamp set, you have this one large stamp. Now I have just did a video tutorial. I'll quickly show you with this card. I'll link the video tutorial in the text portion of this video and on my blog post so you can see this tutorial as well. But what I did on that tutorial is I placed this over here. If you do not have the clear block, the large clear block, you can use your stamp case. So in that video tutorial, I just used this side. And what I've chose to do for this one is to actually take my stamp case that I keep my chamois in. Chamois are a great way to clean your stamps. They come this size. I cut mine into quarters, and they do get all stained up and discolored, but they still work great. I keep mine in a plastic case for different events I go to. I'm actually going to use that instead of my stamp case. So I'm going to put my paper back in here. I think I'm done showing that stamp case and don't have to worry about the glare with the lights. So I have placed this in here. Now this is photopolymer, and this die is going to cut out all of those flowers at the same time. So I want this to go down in its natural relaxed state. I don't want to distort it when I place it down, so I'm just going to let it drop in place. So hopefully you can see it. You know what? I have a piece of cardstock here. Can you maybe see that? I'm just going to put that behind so you can see this a little better. Now the beauty of putting it on a stamp case, I can use my chamois to clean it up when I'm all done, or I could take this to the sink because it's a photopolymer. Just rinse it under the faucet and it will get the ink right off of it. I have been using this quite a bit, and you can see it's already well loved. So let's go to the stamping. We're going to stamp on this piece. It's going to cover the entire stamped image, and I'm going to use the black Memento ink for this project. So what I'm going to do is just take and tap my ink. So I'm really making contact, lifting up and making contact. You want to get a good coverage. Now, my goal is always to just get the ink on the surface of the stamp. Sometimes I push too hard and it gets onto the stamp itself. So that's just important to know that it's there so I don't push down and get that ink on my paper. So I've got this all stamped up. I'm going to take this and set it down and not shuffle it. Don't you always get ink on your fingers? I do. That's the back side. We're all good with that. Now I could use my fingers to apply pressure, but I don't have an even surface. I do have an even surface if I use the clear block. It's just making contact on the surface. I'm going to go around here, put pressure down. I'm trying not to move the cardstock. If you move the cardstock, you can get a double image. So I did that, give it time to absorb, and now I have stamped all these floral images with the Memento. As I mentioned, with the chamois, you can just go in here and clean it up or take it to the faucet, and I'm going to do that later. I won't take the video time to do that. So now we have these already stamped. I did color these in with the Stampin' Blends, the colors I've shared with you, and I like using the brush tip. If you just make contact to the paper, the ink starts flowing. I don't like to push so hard that it scratches. That will start distorting that nice fine tip you have. We also have a bullet tip on the other side, and that's going to be part of the technique. So this part is not part of the technique. This is part of the embellishing the card. So to save some video time, I've colored all of those images in ahead of time. So just color them in for whatever color you want for your project. I am using Pretty in Pink, Daffodil Delight, and the Shy Shamrock. So I'm going to cut these out with my cut and emboss machine, the mini one. This works perfect for the mini one. So I have my platform 1, and this is for cutting, for die cutting. So you have platform 1, then you have a platform 2, then you have your paper, and then you have your die. So I'm going to get that all set up here. Now this die is going to cut out all of these at the very same time, and they are just beautiful images. There is washi tape that coordinates with this, and I have another video that I did that has the washi tape on it. I used wax paper for my washi tape, so I'll give you a link to that tutorial to see how you can use the washi tape. As I mentioned, it can be cut out with the die. Let me see if I still have this piece. You just roll it out and you can cut all those images out with the die. But we're working on this one, so I'm getting a bit distracted. I apologize for that. So let me get this lined up. I'm looking for equal spacing around the images. I typically look opposite corners. I do want to hold this down. So I like using these transparent sticky notes that I got at the Dollar Tree. And I take a scissors in and I cut that a few sheets. So then what I can do is just take a tab, pull it, and then my tackiness is on the end. Now what I want to do is get this all aligned, and I don't have like the best view with the camera, but we're going to just do the best we can. And let's see, we're going to say that's going to be okay. I'm going to put the tackiness on the die, the cardstock, and the plate. I'm going to try to get all three of them on all three of them, just so I can keep this from shifting. So I don't want that to shift while I'm putting the last plate on and running it through the machine. So I have my stack up. I'm going to bring in the mini machine. It's great for traveling. It's very portable. So what I do is I push this in. Basically how you could do this is push this in until the handle starts turning. When the handle starts turning, it's got that whole sandwich. You can then hold on to the handle, run that through, and it's going to die cut all of those at the very same time. So absolutely love that. These fold in, very compact. And now we have all of these images are die cut. Look at those. How fun. Now we got lots of little embellishments or decorative images to be creative with. So I'm going to set that aside. Now we're going to go to this embossed piece, and this is going to be where we have our technique. So what I'm going to do is use the bullet tip of my blends, and I'm going to color in all of these images that I want to. The reason I'm using the bullet tip, I want to stay within the lines the best I can. So by using the bullet tip, I can stay in that line. Now the color has gone on the top of the raised image. That's okay. What you would want to do is color this all in. And I did that ahead of time just to save video time. You can see that my goal is to get the ink in this recessed area. So I've got the Daffodil Delight, I've got the Pretty in Pink, I've got the Shy Shamrock. Now all of these other pieces are going to be left as they are. And now what I'm going to do is bring in a piece of scratch paper, and just I want to work on that and make sure you protect your surface. Now what I'm going to do is add ink on here, and the ink is going to go on the raised part of this image. Now a while ago, a couple years ago, I did a technique where I took the ink pad and I went directly to the folder. And here's a little sample. What's going to happen if I do that? I'm going to get this chalkboard look. This is just something I was playing around with. I don't want that. I want the black just on the raised piece. So I'm going to take a clear block. I'm going to take my Memento ink pad. I'm going to put my clear block right in the ink pad so I can get my ink right on there. Can you see that? Then because now I'm going to take it here and just look at that. Look at how that color just pops out. It's going to, now I've made a few of these. Let me tell you some of the things that I've realized. That it doesn't hit every raised surface. It hits some of them. Like it's not catching that piece right there. Now, if you play around with it and kind of try to get to it, maybe you can. If you're really concerned about it, I would take a black marker or a black blend and fill that area in. It's just not picking that up. It just means it's recessed a little bit lower. And I decided not to worry about that. I just go through here and just look at, that's kind of like magic how that picks up. Now I will tell you that it clears your black really quickly. All that ink is going on to this project. So if you keep adding ink, it's going to maybe be too much ink. So it's one of those projects that you've got to be okay with imperfections, but I just love how that turned out. Isn't that pretty? Now you have the option, as you can see, it's went over here, but that's okay for how I'm going to use it because I'm going to cut these out. Now, I told you at the beginning, I changed the measurement of this. I've been making a couple of these, or a few of these, and I cut this at 2.5, but you can see here, my flower got cut off, or my leaf got cut off. That's why I increased it to 2 3/4 to give you a little bit more room. So to save some video time, I've cut this out ahead of time. Can you see I avoided those flowers? I just cut around them, and I've created this, cut this out. Now I am totally okay that I've got some not filled in black areas. If you wanted to, you can take a marker or a Stampin' Blend, the basic black, and fill that in. But isn't that beautiful? I just love how that turned out. So let's assemble our card. I kind of love how this one came together. So this is going to be like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in my silicone craft mat, and I am going to run this flower through the frame. So I'm only going to put a little bit of adhesive on the top and the bottom of the frame, and just on the top and the bottom, so I can get this lined up. I want to make sure I get this lined up to where I want that sentiment to be. So I'm going to put it right here. So by doing that, my sides are still open. I'm going to take this image and I'm going to run it through like this. So like the frame is going through that, and I want my frame to be tipped a little bit. And it's going to be on here. So you need to look at this and say, okay, are you okay with things tipped like that? I am. That's exactly what I want. I have a little bit of frame on the top, a little bit on the bottom. I'm good with that. I'm good with how these flowers are sitting in here, and a little bit different than my other sample, but that's okay. I'll show you that one. So I'm good with it just like this. So the first thing I want to do is just grab the frame and the flowers. I'm going to set that down. I'm going to lift up the flowers, put a little bit of adhesive across the frame into the white just to keep that in place. So now I have that like this. I'm going to turn this over. Can you see that I used the other side? That's the beauty of stamping. If you don't like your stamped image on the first side or your first attempt, flip your paper over and stamp it again. So now what I'm going to do is adhere this to my white. This is the white with the texture. I'm going to place it on here, and I'm going to have the frame tipped a little bit hanging on the top and the bottom. They're extending off the sides. That's okay. That's what I want. I want it like that. Now I'm going to take my paper snips. I'm going to turn this upside down, take this. When I open it up, the top blade rested along the cardstock, and then just cut that piece off, rotate it, and cut this piece off. So that's what I have here. Just love that pop of the black outlining. So then I'm going to put my adhesive on here. And I'm going to then put it on the black. So it might be hard to see with the silicone craft mat underneath, but I'm looking at opposite corners, making an attempt to get everything even on all 4 sides. Place that down. Then I'm going to put my adhesive around all of these edges, and it looks like does this happen to you? Oh, you know why? My last video, it wrapped up here and it got a lot of adhesive in here. So I'll show you how I fix this. Then very important when you do a refill on your Stampin' Seal is to make sure no adhesive is built up here. That's what causes this that just happened to me. Can you see that rolled up like that? I'll show you how to fix that. But first of all, you need to get all that adhesive off. It's important that nothing is there. Now you can see that's rolled up. So what I do is I separate these gears just enough that I can tightly rotate this little one. And what it's doing is it's getting all that excess backing off to the edge. Then I put it back into the gear, so all that excess that was here is back here. Then you can put that back in, close it up, make sure it gets started, and now we're good to go. That was unexpected, but maybe that was helpful for some people. And it is frustrating when it does have issues, but it's very important that there's no excess adhesive. All right, so now this is going to be on here. So let me look for opposite corners here. And I have made these measurements that I have a little bit wider outline. It's more than an eighth of an inch all the way around by my measurements. I wanted that pink to really pop out. I just love how that turned out. Now this is for the inside, and I'm going to leave it blank. I'll do a handwritten note. This can be for a wedding, a bridal shower. It can be for lots of different occasions. That's going to be the inside. And then I'm going to take some of these floral images that I have cut and add those to the card. And you can use mini glue dots or your Stampin' Seal or your favorite adhesive. And I'm just going to add that to the inside. And here we have the outside. I do want to add some embellishments to these. This is the Iridescent Pearls Basics. They come in 2 sizes. I'm going to take one of the larger ones and fill in those flowers. We have 2 flowers that we see the centers. I see one right here. I'm going to take a small one for that one. That flower is hidden, so we'll just leave that. And then I'm just going to add a few more, kind of sprinkle some around here. And there we go. That is the card that I've created with this fun technique. And as I mentioned, you don't have to fill in all the black, but if you want to, you definitely can. Now I did share that I have another one with you. This one is with the white, and so on the inside is where I use my daffodil flowers. So I hope you like this technique. I do have a video, a project sheet. This is the video. I have a project sheet with the measurements, a photo of these 2 cards, and it references this video for the assembly details and tips. A lot of the product I shared in these cards, I also use for these cards. I'll link you to that video with the washi tape, and I'll link you to another video that I share some cards I created, and I also included the 2024-2025 in colors for in color 6x6 designer series paper for those cards. Goodness, I've been having fun with this bundle and with this embossing folder and with this die set. So all 3 of these cards that I'm sharing with you have been using some of the same product. Love how we can maximize our product and use it for so many different things. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. If you appreciate my free PDFs, I would love you to watch the entire video, to like my video, to share my videos, and I do appreciate everybody that does. Take care and happy creating.